All right, welcome to the first official Catalyst V3 meeting. Thank you all for being here at an unusual time for many of us. So I appreciate the flexibility and making space so that we're as inclusive as possible for people around the world. And we'll swap back and forth between this time and the time that's more favorable to Europeans. It'll be, what is it, 5 p.m. UTC in 2 weeks, and then we'll flip back to this time 2 weeks after that, and we'll keep flopping back and forth every 2 weeks. And so let's do a quick check-in. And the check-in is just to say how you're feeling, how you're doing, and just kind of check in with each other a little bit. So we know where each person is at as we start the meeting. And I'll start and then followed by Mercy. So for myself, I'm super excited to have you all starting your adventures with Catalyst Circle V3. I'm super pleased at how fast the onboarding and how well it went. I think the Circle V2 struggled for a few meetings. And so you guys are way ahead, like everything seems to be set and going. So that's amazing. So I'm feeling really good about this crew, and I'm excited to kick this off. So yeah, Mercy.
Yeah, I'm very happy, very excited to be here. I had a chat earlier today with Nadia, and really looking forward to this meeting in terms of, seeing the big picture. But yeah, I am feeling grateful. I'm happy to be very grateful to Stephen. He's spoiling me so far. But yeah, everything going great, and happy to be here.
All right, Joey, you want to go next, followed by JP?
Sure. I'm glad to be here too. Everyone is very welcoming, and I think we have a great foundation to work off of from the version 1 and 2. So I'm looking forward to it. And Nadia?
Great, me too. I'm on. Okay, good. Very, very positive first couple weeks. A lot of newness, and also just a lot of familiarity. It's feeling like a very supported transition, and it feels nice to actually feel like things are moving still, and they have good momentum with them. So yeah, a lot of good stuff going on. A lot of great connections. Mercy, as Mercy mentioned, we got to talk, and I got to talk with Dumpling too, and some good sort of JP and I talked about some different stuff too, and just related to stuff that was going on in the CA community. So it's nice to start making those connections, and I'm sure we'll continue making them and being able to collaborate on where we have overlap and we can share some of our knowledge. So it's been very positive.
Thanks, Nadia. JP and then Rhys.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Like everybody else, happy to be here. It's neat to be on the admin team and be able to kind of be in the background and watch you guys do your work and watch the previous groups. And so just happy to be here and support and to see what you guys do. So thanks.
Awesome. Rhys and then Harris.
Hey guys, I'm Rhys. For those who don't know, I'm the SPO rep. And yeah, feeling good, bright and early for me. So I'm usually quite a late night kind of person. So it's just an excuse to go to bed early tonight, really. But really looking forward to what comes from this, and yeah, just dive in.
Harris and then Dumpling.
Great. So thrilled to be working with all of you. Thank you for taking the time to step up into this role, and we get to sort of pave the way sort of for the future of governance together, help listen a lot, and find ways where we can make improvements and make the process better, to make Catalyst better, to make it easier to use, listening to our different constituents. So we're really thrilled to be working with all of you. Definitely there's an awful lot going on in the world right now, and it's been really intense, and it's hard to get through every day without feeling the weight of that. Definitely happy that I've got my health and my family, and definitely great to be sharing with all of you, and I look forward to some productivity and some great things we can do together. So glad to be here.
Thanks, Rhys. And Dumpling. I saw you unmute, Dumpling, but we didn't hear anything. I'm not sure if your audio is coming through or not. Still nothing.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can barely hear you. You're really quiet.
Can you hear me now?
That's a little better, yeah.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody. Look forward to the meeting. I hope you can hear me. I'll try to fix this in the meanwhile. Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen. Let's get the right screen. All right, can you all see the meeting agenda? All right, so to kick things off, we did our welcome and check-in. We now have an announcement section. If anybody has anything they want to announce, just raise your hand and we'll give you a few seconds to announce anything. Announcements are generally things like key events or things that you want other circle members to know about that are coming up. And it could be even something like it's your birthday or something that you would like to announce, but just giving a little space for tiny mini agenda announcements. So if you have anything, this is a good time to share that. I don't see anything, so we'll move on. So the next step is to look at the agenda and make sure that we're aligned on it. So what we usually do, as mentioned in our orientation, is we're going to kick off with the GitHub board and go over that and then do just a quick stand-up. And it's kind of an agile / scrum based stand-up where you will just talk about what you did leading up to this meeting, what you're going to do next week or the next 2 weeks, and then is anything blocking you or do you need help from the group? So it's really talking about what happened, what's coming next, and then if you're blocked or need any help. Those are the 3 things to really focus on. And we'll be displaying the GitHub board at the same time so we can reference the cards there, because most of the stuff you do as a circle should be up there as issues and cards that we move around, because that's how the community will be able to track things. And that's how our primary method of reporting KPIs as well will be through that board. We'll be reporting how many cards move from ideation to discussion to being done. And then the content agenda itself we'll get into after the stand-up. And today it looks like we have talking about seed incentives with Nadia for 15 minutes. Community letter to IOG from Joey for 15 minutes. Then Joy also has a talk about some subcircle roles and stipend for that. And then Mercy has a couple with a new prioritized problem on board, achieving clarification on exact timing of release of funds each month to funded proposers. And then another prioritized problem, permanent allocation of Treasury to support admin, community and governance projects, and then live streaming circle meetings from Rhys. Any other agenda items or things that people want to move around, or are you all happy to take them in that order?
I definitely think we should probably discuss our next meeting and make sure that that's going to work. If folks have questions on the meeting time, perhaps we've already covered that and we have alignment, but just in case, because I know there was a lot of back and forth, so I don't want to create any more churn on that. But if it's worth it for us to talk, maybe we don't need to, but it's something I'll propose. And then you know, in the Catalyst Circle, there's proposals, and The good news is the actual deadline for submitting new proposals has been extended. And so that's great. But as a group, we should consider organizing specific proposals for specific things for Circle. And so I don't know if we have specific ideas in mind, items mid-flight, but maybe talk about proposals if that makes sense.
That makes sense to talk about.
Yeah, because we have until the March 17th now to submit proposals.
Mhm. Okay. Awesome. Anything else from anybody? All right. So let me do gallery view here so I can make sure I can see everybody's hands raised and stuff. All right, so let's get into the meeting. We'll start with the GitHub board. And then I'm gonna just take people in the order you're showing up on my screen. So let's start with Joey. Tell us about the 3 things. What have you done up till now? What are you gonna do next? And do you need any help from the rest of the Circle members, or are you blocked on anything?
Basically, I've attended several meetings. As you know, the SWARM meeting, which I'll have some topics to speak about that today. And I've met with June Acra and discussed the Subcircle information with her. And I've also met with the Philadelphia Cardano group, which is kind of separate from this, but they all discuss Cardano topics. And we've actually got a couple of proposers out of there. So that's kind of what I've done and where I'm at. So,
Okay. What's coming next for you?
well, next depends on what happens in this meeting with the subcircles. If June moves forward to be the subcircle representative for myself, then she and I are going to get together and collaborate on what meetings we're going to go to and how we're going to approach that.
And are you blocked by anything or need anything from this group?
Well, the challenge right now is how we fund that, and I think we'll discuss that a little bit later. So,
okay. And just for process, it looks like the Toolmaker and Maintainer has 4, 5, 7 cards up here currently with Toolmaker and Maintainer tagged to it. So have you been looking at those with your mentor and going?
No, we're scheduled. I'm scheduled to meet with him tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and we're going to and actually Aaron as well, and we're going to go through these items plus the activities that they're both are involved with at this point in time. I know Aaron, when he ran for this T&M role, he had some ideas about what he wanted to do, so I'm going to review that with him, and so we'll see what that meeting brings.
Okay, great. Thank you. Nadia, you're up next with Community Advisor.
Great. So we actually, we made a lot of progress in this particular area over the past about week and a half. I actually, almost everything on here is live also in the iterative Dropbox, which is like a longer list of just sensed issues with solutions proposed to them. So one of the things we're working on is creating the prioritized problems board in such a way that the community can have a hub to contribute to these things and begin to use that as a process. So I spent some good time with Stephen and Vanessa really understanding sort of how that would look. And we have actually a subcircle group. For one, our group formed a subcircle to talk about subcircle. And then we also have a group that's working on the communications and workflow of these projects. So while I haven't gone through each of these things extremely in depth on the board, all of them are actively being addressed. And it'll be, I think, an issue of the next week or two to sort of make that process come to life and have this be a really active place where the community is coming to understand things and thinking also about the solutions to it. So that was very positive. And we had an after town hall today where we covered talking about a lot of these things. So yeah, it feels really good. And I think one of the things maybe there's not a blockedness, but I think there's an opportunity that we could take advantage of, which is like talking with other circle team about how each of our groups is sort of doing these processes, because then we could start to maybe align where it makes sense to align on. So the language and the sort of flow and rhythm of problem solving is similar where it's helpful. We can share good results. So that's probably it from me.
Okay. Did you talk about what's coming next and if you have any blockers?
Yeah, what's coming next? So we have 3 or 4 like smaller groups formed around solving some particular things. So we have a couple of meetings coming up for those this week. One of them is on our onboarding process. One of them is for the VCA sort of criteria for how to sift through and make sure our data is good. One is for the Subcircle forming, and one is for the communications process. So I think each of those smaller groups will meet, and some of them are expanding this week. And so those meetings are going to come up, as well as we'll have an after town hall next week for the VCA group specifically.
Any
Don't feel blocked by anything. Yeah. Okay, good. That's me.
All right. Thank you. Rhys, you're up next.
All right, guys. So for me, what's been going on since the last time we met, I've basically been reaching out to a bunch of other proposers and SPO communities, basically trying to get them to get involved in Catalyst. I kind of see that as my main role, trying to onboard people and bring people in. And actually, there's something on here that I didn't notice before in the raw problems about SPOs. Is it showing on your? Oh yeah, you're filtering it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you see it there. I didn't realize this was on, but this is a really big thing for me because I know there's a big disconnect. I've seen it basically chatting with people, and a lot of SPOs know about Catalyst, quite a lot about Catalyst, but don't really know how to get involved, which doesn't make any sense to me because it's kind of one and the same, isn't it? Like knowing about it and taking part from my perspective. So I have had some meetings with different SPO groups about how they can submit proposals or get involved. There's a lot of interest since the last fund for SPOs to become CAs and VCAs as well. Well, CAs, I guess. So I've been talking to a lot of people about how they can get involved with that and kind of encouraging people to kind of make the leap and get involved. One really good thing, or a little bonus in my perspective, is the delay on proposals. And so I've just got another 2 weeks to kind of get people in for this fund. I thought I was mostly going to be educating people over the next couple of weeks and pushing them into Fund 9, but I have this little opportunity here to get more involvement from the SPO community, which is great. I've forgotten the last note, what I'll be working on before the next meetup. So that's what I'll be working on, right? I've got some other meetings coming up with people over the next kind of this week until about next Wednesday. I'm meeting like 5 or 6 different groups of SPOs to draft up some proposals. And yesterday, I think I wrote about 9 or 10 proposals, myself and some other community members together. There's not really anything blocking me, to be honest. One thing maybe that I struggle with in some respects is just getting in front of, it's such a huge community, and it can be just like any community is kind of secular and kind of disparate at some times. So I was thinking, I'm not sure how, and maybe you guys might have some ideas about maybe doing some kind of ads on Twitter or something to encourage people to get in contact with me through the Catalyst Circle email. I don't know what that would look like exactly. I have no idea about Twitter ads, but I feel like that's the better place to do it. Maybe Reddit is another good idea. So if any of you guys have any experience with that or any suggestions, because I know we have a little bit of a budget, don't we, to kind of work for us. So that was something I was hoping essentially that I could kind of siphon that in that direction to help reach other SPOs and increase the reach and increase the involvement over the next 2 weeks. Yeah, I guess that's about it, guys. If you have any questions or anything or any suggestions, that'd be great.
Thanks, Rhys. Harris. Yeah,
that's a great idea, Rhys. Use some of the budget for different things to have that reach. I've dabbled a little bit in some advertising, but so happy to have some discussion with you. Great. Yeah, so things have been very busy at IOG for sure. We've had a lot of pieces going on, a lot of around planning, and we are looking at kind of shuffling different parts of our teams in different ways so we can be more effective and efficient and have all the parts covered in a better way, and making sure that we have enough of the community outreach and we have enough of the sharing of what it is we're up to, which I'm hoping to bring out more and more over time, and it will take a little bit more time. So there's a little bit of that organization that is still going on, and we'll be unveiling a lot more here in the coming weeks and months. So I've been working really hard at defining certain requirements for governance pieces, and that's some of the bits that we have been working on. Some of those pieces include our open APIs and really opening up a lot of the elements and the data that we have. Most of all of the APIs are actually out there and available. There's some new ones that will be coming up in support of the DREPs and other things that are around the corner. So those are things I'm very actively working on, is making sure that we have the foundation of everything built on open APIs. And I'm also looking at directly working on the interfaces for DREP registration, and the concept of delegation, specifically to facilitate getting more folks involved in the voting process, whether they have the time to vote themselves or if they have the time to delegate a portion of their voting power to others, so that we have more participation kind of across the board. It is time consuming. We're certainly increasing more and more of these proposals, and so we do want to share that load with folks that can do more and more and dedicate the time and get rewarded for spending that time, and that's kind of the intent. So I'm looking at actually building sort of the plumbing and the back end of some of these parts, which will be initially APIs, which will be open APIs, and also building the interfaces and doing some of that initial design. And then we'll be sharing kind of our thoughts with that, how that integrates into wallets, how that integrates into the various interfaces we're putting together, and sharing that with the community. So I'm really looking forward to that. So certainly blocking me is sort of time, and definitely spend a lot of days and times in meetings. And so I do want to try to get more and more things done. We're getting a lot more efficient in our collaboration, in and out of IOG. And so that's helping, but, definitely having more hours in the day, I think would be really, really beneficial. So that's the update from me.
Thanks, Harris. Mercy, you're up next.
What have I been up to? So basically just sort of scouring around the Telegram groups, sort of the more traditional issues that have been coming up, taking note of that. As I said, I think the last time that we met, I have been able to sort of close the loop with Stephen, who was the V2 rep. And obviously, as we all know, Fund 7 just wrapped up. I think that all the funded proposals, everybody sort of sitting up and waiting to get their funding sent out to them. Over the next couple of weeks, what I'm planning to do is sort of continue the conversation, form working groups, depending on how this meeting goes today, maybe get some more clarity on how as a group we want to figure out the subcircle groups, and really already in conversation with Stephen as well as Vanessa. Vanessa has offered to help as well with that. So just to figure out how we can go forwards with that. And then in terms of blockers, it's just mostly, the funded proposals, they tend to be a busy group. So I am still figuring out what is the best way to just keep reaching as many as possible. A lot of them are reachable, but there's always room to, do more. Danny and the group has agreed that I present at the Catalyst Coordinator meetings. So I think that would be a good opportunity for further discussion in terms of raising issues, bringing back to them whatever we discuss here, and seeing how we can make this work for everybody. So that's that for me. Otherwise, everything else is going great.
Thanks, Mercy. No blockers?
The blockers is just mostly the fact that funded proposals, they just have quite a lot on their plate, just trying to implement proposals, trying to finish off their projects. So just for me to be creative in terms of how I outreach to them and how to capture their voice, compared to sort of the CAs that tend to be really proactive when it comes to forming subgroups and sort of getting work done. Funded proposals tend to be more focused on their projects. So that's something that we need to figure out in terms of how to be more inclusive of them.
Good point. Thank you. And Dumpling, do you have any updates for us this week?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep. Oh yeah, we can hear you great now.
Okay. This week, things done. I have had meetings with Nadia and Felix. I presented my future work and plans during the town hall yesterday. To do in the future, I am going to set up regular meetings with the foundation and possibly with the Ambassadors Guild representative, get more information from both parties and see what problems we can propose to solve in the circle. Because of the nature of the foundation representative, there are not many diversified issues that are clearly defined for me to work on. So for the future, and the biggest roadblock for me is to identify workable or talkable topics and areas. Yeah, that's it from me. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Bullish. Yeah, I'm noticing there are no Cardano Foundation CF tags on any of these tickets up here. So I think that would be a really great step if you can start to bring stuff here from the Cardano Foundation.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you. All right. That was our stand-up. And that's kind of, as an introduction, what we'll be doing at the start of every meeting, just to check in and quickly go over the board and really start to talk to the cards that are up here, and really take some time between meetings to make sure that the cards are in the right state, they're in the right column, they're moved, they're progressing. And if there are cards in here that you're tagged to that no longer make sense, either take your tag off or delete the card altogether if everyone agrees that it's no longer active or not So kind of that hygiene, I think, is important to just maintain the board so it doesn't get too cluttered. And we're really focusing on the ones that we're actually working on, the ones we think will have impact. All right, thanks everybody.
I just wanted to say, I know, Mercy, you're working with funded proposers, and just an idea of there may be some opportunity to engage some of the challenge teams if there's funded proposers in a specific challenge to maybe go and help in the coordination, of some of those challenges, and maybe some of the, what the funded proposers found that worked in their proposals to kind of get across, and maybe find alliances as another potential outreach area in working with challenge teams, or becoming parts of challenge teams in the future. Might be something to champion.
That's right. To be some kind of a mentor. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
There might be opportunities for those funded proposer groups, or people that are running challenge teams probably have experience as a funded proposer. It might be a place to find those groups.
That's right. Thanks.
All right, moving into the consent agenda. Our first topic of discussion is to talk about CA incentives. Do you want to introduce that topic, Nadia, and speak to it?
Cool. So this is, you want me to talk about the, this is about CAs being incentivized for their assessments, what came out this week?
I think so. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I assume you put this agenda item in with your name on it, or?
I did not do that.
You did
So,
not.
I mean, I could speak to that, but this was not something that I selected and put on there. So I'm a little caught off guard.
That's interesting. I'm not sure where. JP, do you know where it came from? Was it copied in from something?
No, I don't know. I don't think I put it in.
Yeah,
So
that's
I don't know who would have put it in with your name on it.
okay. Do you have a topic along these lines that you wanted to talk about today, or we can skip over it if you're not ready or not prepared? And
I mean, I can speak. So if this topic needs to be talked about, I can say that we did get a great update on distribution of incentives for CAs. That was very clarifying, but and maybe there we could link like the document to it from this conversation, because I think it would be helpful to look through. But in terms of like going through that with a fine tooth comb, I don't know if that's the best use of here. I'm happy to do that, but I didn't put this on here, so I just want to make sure that I'm speaking to something that's.
has anybody else in this fine gathering, did somebody else put this up here, or can we just kind of skip over it? That's mysterious.
Okay, good. It's like
History agenda item there.
I hope I didn't. I was like, we can talk about it, but
Yeah, if you send me the link, I'll populate it in here.
okay, great. I'll just pop it to you here.
Okay. Yeah, that's odd, because typically agenda items are put in, especially when the leader's set, is the leader actually puts it in. So that's a little odd. Okay, so I guess we'll jump to Joey. You have a community letter that you wanted to share. You want me to share that on my screen?
I'm just going to read. I hope you guys don't mind, but I've written everything down because it's late. I don't want to miss anything. So you can share the letter, but I feel it's appropriate that my first official act in the Circle version 3 is to present a letter from the community. I'm going to leave everyone to read the entirety of the letter on their own so they have time to digest its contents. I plan on reading only a portion of the first paragraph, and after that, I would like to take a moment to read a bit about my personal observations of the 2 meetings discussed in the letter. I would like to also add that even though the letter is addressed to the IOG team, we should all feel the need to embrace the concerns, thoughts, and ideas of this letter and to take ownership as Catalyst Circle version 3. The letter is a draft and will likely continue to circulate through the community. Comments and signatures may be added as it travels through the community. So this is how it starts. Dear Harris, Door, and IOG Project Catalyst team, Over the last 2 weekends, during the Saturday afternoon Catalyst Forum sessions of February 19th and 26th, 2022, a diverse group of members from the community came together to discuss 3 critical issues regarding the transfer of management and oversight responsibilities for IOG to the community pertaining to the Catalyst Fund. Number 1 was designated representatives, or our DREPs. Number 2 was the Treasury structure and the Treasury, and number 3, the Treasury transparency. We would like to begin this letter by welcoming the opportunity to provide our comments and questions on these 3 topics to IOG for consideration and discussion. The letter is long, so that's all I'm going to cover. I'll let you guys read the rest of it, but basically it's about the designated representatives, the Treasury structure, and the Treasury transparency. For me, I think the key word the community is focused on here is the word transparency. Now for my observations. I attended a forum session on February 19th. The room had many faces and names and voices I did not recognize, so I'm making an assumption that it may be possible they may not have seen our faces or heard our voices either. However, it was clear they had heard our message. We are an experiment, we value your ideas and contributions, etc. Everyone here knows the message. I was multitasking in the beginning, so I was not closely focused on the conversation, but as it got to be a bit more lively, I tuned in and observed the participants were discussing the DREP information. And they seemed a bit taken back and were asking about why the community itself was not brought into the conversation when the decisions to create DREPs was going on. It then continued with many questions about what problem are they trying to solve and how is this going to solve the problem. Then it moved into concerns that information is not being shared, decisions are being made with no community input. Then discussions moved onward toward the Treasury with similar concerns. The seas were turning a bit, and then someone suggested they should send a letter and they should put signatures on it so IOG would know there are real people out here with real concerns. There are some that stated they would not put their names on the letters or the documents if it was not professional and respectful. In the light of full disclosure, I've read the document and feel it is professional and respectful, and I have also signed that letter. The next meeting on the 26th, the same attendees were there, but by that time the seas had calmed and I observed a very thoughtful and professional group of individuals. They had decided that even though they still had a lot of questions, they would explore what they did know about the DREPs and Treasury and ask questions, explore ideas, and also provide suggestions they felt would be of value on both of these topics. This is what you will read for yourselves in the contents of the letter. And that is my observations. And Nadia, I believe you have a copy of the letter that you could actually send to everyone.
Yeah, I just shared it in chat, the link.
Okay, so that's kind of my observation as my first Catalyst Circle event here.
Thank you, Joey. For this topic, was your intent just to do that reading and introduction, or would you like some conversations, or do you have any further goals for
Well,
this?
I think that the document itself needs to be read and consumed. The important thing is the community wants, and Harris has already spoken about this, about being more open, being more out there. So I think there's some plans for that, but the community wasn't seeing that at that point in time. So that's basically it. Yeah.
I'm certainly happy to chime in and add a little bit of some feedback, and if that's okay, Nori.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm so thrilled that the community has had the discourse and raising their concerns, and IoT, we welcome this type of feedback, and we definitely want to hear from the community, and we want to share with the community as well. So I applaud all the effort and the nature of the letter, and please know that we certainly have shared this broadly internally, so your voices are being heard, and we have had a little bit of discussion. We do need to sort of dig deeper into it, but please know it was professionally done. Like, written very well articulated, very constructive, and you know, I certainly applaud the effort that it took to kind of get it into there. So, you know, thank you, Joey, for bringing this into the circle, and you know, thank you for the community for, you know, having the discourse, and that's what Catalyst is all about. We want the open discourse. We want different perspectives from all over, and so, you know, certainly part of this amazing community that we have is that we want to be open. We want to have that dialogue. We want to entertain those discussions, and certainly has been part of town hall, been part of after town hall, and you know, we are listening, and so thank you for sharing this. There's a lot that we have that is actively being worked on, and there's certainly specifics about DREPs that we can start going into in terms of our thoughts. So I welcome, you know, the idea of, you know, starting some of these workshops, which was kind of one of the requests of the letter, which I thought was fantastic, where we can sort of bring community members together, actually answer some of those questions in a more detailed form, and you know, we can pick a time and place and make sure that we can start really addressing these specific questions. So, you know, personally, I'm very actively working on the interface, the flow of DREPs, and so I certainly have a lot of deep understanding of that process. And you know, certainly our goal is to be able to get more participation from more wallets at this time. You know, we certainly love the concept of one vote, one heartbeat, as we're looking at, you know, various solutions, and even a Tala Prism. You know, we're certainly excited to start having some of those conversations and bring some of that technology into place. But right now we're working with wallets, and so we need to sort of understand the dynamics of those wallets and sort of how they flow through. And we do notice that there's a real lack of participation of wallets, and our intent is to really increase the number of wallets that are participating in voting and governance. And that can be accommodated by having a representative, you know, representing your specific voting power. If you don't have the time, if you don't want to look at 1,000 proposals, it is time consuming. And we do see the trend of, well, okay, we have a number of wallets that are voting, but they're only voting for, you know, 7 or 8 things on average. And we want to increase that. We want people to actively have discourse on lots and lots of proposals. And to us, that is really driving this goal, where many people, you know, have other lives and other careers, and don't necessarily have the time to read all the proposals and participate maybe the way they intend to. And the goal is to be able to share with lots of folks, be able to adjust it at any time, you know, have visibility of what these folks are actually doing. And you know, these are very well aligned with a lot of the questions that the community has. And I'm certainly happy to go into a lot more detail as we go through it, as we have sort of wireframes and flows and concepts, bring those to the community for feedback. So I welcome that opportunity, and I look forward to being part of those workshops as we kind of proceed forward and can address some of these things. I don't have as much direct knowledge of some of the Treasury pieces myself. And, you know, certainly our goal is to be able to share and be more transparent about what it is, the inner workings of sort of how that's going. There's certainly a lot of dialogue and discourse sort of across the company, and, you know, certainly bleeding into partners, you know, Cardano Foundation and others of how we will manage some of these things, and the DCF, which has been somewhat talked about by Johnny and Nguyen. So we're, you know, really excited to sort of, you know, share more about, you know, kind of what we're thinking with these things, and really make sure that it's, you know, driven really by community members in terms of understanding how the dynamics will be for the Treasury moving forward, but we also need to do it with care and protection, that, you know, things aren't taken advantage of, and then suddenly treasuries are really compromised. And so that's something that's really critical, that we have the security, that we have the right governance mechanisms in place. And, you know, we, you know, certainly want to get the opinions and feedback of the community and have that discourse. So we're looking forward to those workshops and sharing more. I don't exactly have a time scale, so I can't necessarily commit to the timing of that, but it's something we're taking your feedback, we're listening to that, and we'll take that and share that as soon as we can. So that's my update from IOG, but please know that, you know, we have taken it seriously, we've shared it internally, and we'll continue to provide information as soon as we can. So thank you.
Thanks, Rhys. JP, you came on camera. Do you want to say something or accept some kudos?
Yeah, I just am glad that you like the tone of the letter. That's all.
Yeah, no, well done, JP. I know you were probably
Yes.
deeply involved in that, so it was probably, you know, the outcome was
Very
great
well written.
participation. Yeah, well done.
Nothing like starting my term with a bang, right? So.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing. Thanks everyone for sharing their thoughts and views. We want this discourse.
Thank you, Rhys. Thanks, Joey. And thanks, JP, and everyone else who participated in that document. All right. Then we can move on then to the next topic. The next two are from Mercy. It looks like you want to introduce a couple more prioritized problems to the board.
Well, I wanted to talk about
we
the
have another Joey.
subcircles.
Yeah.
What was that? Oh,
Sorry, Mercy. I wanted to talk about the subcircles.
oh yeah. Okay, sorry, I skipped that one.
No, it's good. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Go ahead.
Actually, Mercy and I had gone back and forth with some communications, and I thank her for her comments. So I would like to start off with the subcircle, because as we all know, that there's just so many town halls and swarms and telegrams and everything else. There's no way one person can really cover it all. And I've been trying. I've been sitting on telegrams, watching the conversations, and been trying to go to all the various meetings, but it's very time consuming. So I would like to select June Akra, who's been a challenge team member with me on the boosting Cardano DeFi. I'd like to select her to be my sub circle, and also to represent me if I'm absent from this circle. She's extremely bright, she's talented, and she cares a lot about this community. So I'm just wondering a couple of things. Number one, is there a formal, like we formally announced this circle, is there something we formally announce to the community about the subcircles? And then I also want to ask about the funding. How do we fund these folks? I'm willing to take some of the money out of the fund that you guys have allocated for us. I think it was either $6,000 or $7,000, and I'm not sure if that's for 3 months or 6 months. So I don't want to establish a rate or amount of a stipend without involving everyone in the circle, because if we go out and each one of us gives a different amount of funds to a subcircle, it's going to confuse the community and might upset some people. So I'm looking for some comments on that as well.
Nadia, you have your hand up.
This is such a great discussion for us to have, and I'll just share that. And it'll be interesting how we handle it, because within the community advisor group, a small group formed to talk about what a subcircle might look like, and rather than create a role that is consistent and a standing role with a function, our group has talked about having groups form with a champion. So a group would form naturally around a problem. For example, right now there's a group formed around, just formed today in our after town hall, of VCAs who are forming around veteran community advisors who are forming around making sure that the Fund 8 filtering and assessing of community advisor assessments process is fluid, and some of the things from Fund 7 are addressed. So that group naturally formed, but naturally will have like what the group is sort of tentatively calling a champion, someone who decides that they're going to really like sort of make sure that the group follows a process of solving the problem. So the group forms and then disbands, problem related rather than a role that is positioned. And I think that sort of serves how the community advisors group operates anyway. It very much sort of naturally comes into small working groups and leaves them. And so, you know, a second one of these subcircles, for example, is forming around the communications workflow process. And those two groups are going to, those several groups can talk to each other and relate to each other and sort of knowledge share naturally, but it's a temporary one. And, you know, the first few of them will probably form as volunteer groups because they're wanting to test the process. That was the groups themselves made that choice. So, but it will be important that we incentivize people moving forward because it does really create an opportunity for people to rise into, you know, temporary positions of ownership of things. So I'd be really interested as well to just hear what the group thinks about that kind of a forming and what we'll do about having Subcircle kind of mean something different, right? It's like kind of a group defined thing. Second, and third, it'd be interesting also to just talk about some ideas for how just incentivizing in general, how we think about approaching that. If we do it some kind of like an hourly thing or project based, or there's some other really creative way that we can come up with that isn't any of those obvious ways.
Thanks, Nadia. And before we go to Joey, I just wanted to mention this is a funded proposal, the Catalyst Circle funding mechanism, and it's intended to be a rapid funding mechanism so that rather than having to wait for Fund 8 to fund some of these things, because that's not going to be for 3 months, you have some funds available, and the total is $7,000 US per elected seat. And so these aren't earmarked or tagged for anything, so it's really up to you to decide how to use them. So they are available. So I see three possibilities. One is to use this rapid funding mechanism to incentivize now and do it. And that experiment, I think, is what we hope to see, is things like this happening and being able to incentivize people. The second one is definitely get your groups to put in Fund 8 proposals to incentivize and fund these things if you think that is the right way to move forward. And then the third one is we keep talking about catalyst parameters and the technical council coming together with the circle to make catalyst changes. So that's a third one, a little longer term, is if it is an emerging governance structure and all these things are worthwhile, then maybe it can be a catalyst parameter change to fund the governance layers outside of the proposal mechanism. So that's what I would just throw out there as three options for you all to play with right now. And Harris may have more, but those are the ones that come to mind for me. And I just wanted to represent this fund because the admin team is holding the wallet for these, and we're waiting to be told how to deploy those funds from you all as an experiment. So these are available as a mechanism.
So are those funds available for the 3-month cycle or for the 6-month cycle of our term?
It is, when this proposal went in, it was imagined that Circle tenure would be 3 months. And then after the fund went into the voting cycle, we decided the Circle would be 6 months this time. So this probably is, you don't have any other money coming. So if you want to extend this, you'll have to create a Fund 8 rapid funding proposal and get that funded, or something else, directly funding the subcircles yourselves through proposals.
Okay. So I guess my vision of the subcircle would be more, again, someone that could represent as a censor in all the other activities that I couldn't be at, because there's so many different activities, rather than just a pop-up type person to represent a certain activity. I wanted someone that I could depend on, that I knew could be there to represent when I couldn't be there. So I guess I have a little bit different vision of what a subcircle person would be than what Nadia has described that her community is looking at.
Yeah, and I don't think each rep needs to be aligned with how their circles run. They can all be completely different, but yeah. And I love this conversation because you can cross-pollinate and exchange ideas on how that might work.
And I don't have a problem, even if June or myself, we're out in one of the communities. I mean, if we hear conversations that involve the other roles, bringing that information back to Nadia or Mercy or whoever that information may pertain to, so that they can react to it, you know.
Rhys, your hand is up.
Yeah, you know what, I was actually going to say basically what Nori just said, right? Where we kind of, we have a bit of funding here. We don't all have to use it in the same way. And if we can test different stuff with each group, then between us, between the six of us, I think, my brain's not working this morning, sorry. We can all test different ways of actually using this funding and figure out processes for the next 3 months, and then the follow-up for the future of the Catalyst Circle reps. So we kind of have the opportunity to experiment, and I think we should just do it, right? If you have a reason to use this kind of funding, then try it out. You know, like you were saying, there's no one right or wrong way for how we want to organize our groups. So if that's what you want to do, then I think you should just be free to do it. But just report it to us. You know, let us know how it goes so we can think about implementing something in the next round. And the other thing, sorry, quickly, Harris, is that I think we do need to get on a Catalyst Circle proposal to resubmit either this proposal exactly or something similar. We have the opportunity where we essentially are operating for 2 cycles. And this means that we have the chance to run an experiment as funding ourselves, you know, and kind of saying, right, we've got 2 weeks, we can come up with another proposal which we can submit, and then we can use that as a way to achieve funding for ourselves for the next fund, for Fund 9, and we can create that funding for ourselves and push it, and then we have another iteration to experiment with based on what we find whilst we run this cycle, right? And I think we should really take advantage of that. So if anyone wants to have a chat about it or try and figure that out, then that would be great to do. Probably in the Slack channel would be best for that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Rhys. And while we're talking about funding, I just want to point out that this specific proposal was funded for the 5 elected seats. So it does not include IOG or the Cardano Foundation. So I do know that the Ambassadors Guild was funded as well with a small treasury. So that may be something that Bullish, Dumpling, you are able to tap into for this purpose, to do different experiments with the Ambassadors Guild. You may consider as a circle to include all 7 seats for the next iteration of this proposal, so that it's like even and there's enough funds to experiment for all the seats in different ways. That might be interesting. So just throw that out there, just so that you're all aware that the only funds are going to the 5 elected seats here.
Yeah, we discussed that with Felix. Thanks, Nori. Yeah, it's exactly what we said.
Okay, thank you. All right, Joey, your hand's up. Or was it Harris next?
Yeah, Harris was next.
Yeah, I lowered my hand. I was going to jump the gun, and then I had to raise it again. Yeah, no, I really, I think potentially both, right? So if re-upping the funding mechanism similar to this, where it gives you sort of that open amount to sort of support your needs, support your outreach, tools that you need to facilitate getting those responses back, I think it's really great. I love the Subcircle concept a lot, and I think it's great. And perhaps if you feel like you need that role, define that role, and then put that in a proposal and ask for the budget for that specific role of what you need, and then you'll be able to fund it in a few different avenues but it would be at your disposal for that specific seat, and voted on by the community. So I think that would be a great way to go. But yeah, no, I think these are great suggestions, and definitely applaud the initiative of building these subcircles. I think it's really cool.
Joey.
Yeah, so given the direction of this conversation, then I'm going to go ahead and appoint June as my subcircle representative. And my expectations is for her to be available when I'm not available, and to be a censor. I think for us to reach out to the globe, we all have to be sensitive, and I think we are, to the time zones and the dominant language of those time zones. We could cover the entire globe if we had a censor in each one of those areas, which represent those communities that are out there speaking already every month, you know, because we have the East Coast and the LATAM group and the Asian group, etc. So if we really want to cover the global community, we need to be looking at time zones and dominant languages, so that people can be there when they need to be there and they can understand what we're trying to communicate. So anyway, given that, I'm going to go ahead and let her know that she's been approved to be representative. And again, if I'm not here for some reason, she'll represent me here on the circle. Thank you.
Joey. Nadia.
Just real quick, if anyone's interested, I put in, we have a pretty well developed sort of supporting documents. We've met and talked about the subcircle idea, and also there's, as I mentioned, there's the communications group that put together prioritized problem workflow. The group's calling those initiatives. I think it's just you know, a term that sort of resonates within how we're talking about things. So I just wanted to point out that I put those links in there, and if anyone wants to take a look and talk about it more, it might just be nice and maybe food for thought, so that we can have collaborative documents there.
Nadia. JP, I wanted to bring you up just so that everybody knows the admin team is resubmitting the core proposals that were funded for the circle, the admin team, Treasury team, and a few other things. So I just want to make sure that we're all coordinated there. And then one thing I wanted to interject there is currently you're all funded for $1,000 for 3 months. So you will need a second one for the second 3 months. And also it was envisioned that you'd be working about 10 hours a week, but it looks like you all are super engaged and maybe going well beyond that. So is the $1,000 enough? And maybe you should talk about the compensation levels for that. I know Dimitri was wanting to talk about that too. But just, yeah, thoughts to throw out there. And JP, where are we at?
Yeah, so hey everybody, so we're drafting the CC admin team proposal to get some funding for us as well to make sure we can continue supporting. But in that, we have decided to submit to the open source development ecosystem because it focuses on infrastructure, collaboration, community building. And so what we were thinking is doing a more comprehensive proposal that would include the CC admin team, the Treasury, would include the mentors, and then would also include the rewards or the stipend for the circle members for your participation, kind of having a whole governance, what it takes to run this for a certain amount of time. I'm drafting it right now, and then we'll just open it for comment. Now, if you think you would rather have take pieces of that out and champion them yourselves, then that is definitely worth a discussion. But for now, I have included all of that in our major proposal to give us a better sense of what it actually takes for us to operate for a 3 or 6 month period. Because I think we're still, it's all in pieces right now. So if we had it in one place, that what does it take for governance, that would really help us in the parameter change that we might want to do, as well as just in the funding now already, so we can actually continue to do our work.
And just to note, there's no governance challenge or any happy place to put all these anymore. And if we dump it in the miscellaneous, we're taking more than 10% of that. So we thought the open source might be a better place to put it. So that's definitely up for discussion. If you can think of a better place to put these proposals to continue the governance experiments here.
Yeah, I will just say, sorry, Joey, before you go, I will just say that when drafting the proposal, it really fits within the open source development ecosystem. And so the way that I'm taking it is I'm taking some of the challenge out of the brief, and I'm saying, okay, this is exactly how we meet each of these components of this challenge to really clarify that we deserve to be in here. So we can discuss other ones, but I will just chime in and think that it is a good fit right now for where it sits, but open to discussion.
Yeah, just wanted to throw out a wild card here, since it is tax season, that these funds that we're receiving, the tax man eventually is going to look at it as income. So I don't know if anybody's considered any of that, but I expect it to come up in my tax documents when I file them this year.
Yeah, that completely depends on your jurisdiction and the laws that apply. So I don't know that especially the admin team does not give any kind of tax advice. So you're going to have to check with your tax professional about what's going on there. But you will be paid in ADA that will be paid out based on the current US dollar exchange rate the day the funds come out. And we're still toying with how we do that because we can't convert to stable coins. And the last circle got paid after their term, and the price of ADA changed in the meantime. So they didn't get a full 1,000 US dollars worth of ADA. They got much less. So that's something to discuss. We may have to pay you all immediately the tranches that we get so that the drift isn't too far, or yeah, we're going to have to figure that out. But that's another issue that's outside of this conversation. Anything else that people want to talk about for the subcircles and the funding of those activities?
It sounds like it may make sense to add a challenge that would support governance in the future as well. And so that's adding to the challenge. So it's something we should think about as a proposal, as a team. And historically, was that how that was created before? Was that created by a Catalyst Circle person?
No, but it was in Fund 7. It just didn't get enough votes to become a challenge setting for Fund 8.
Okay. What was the dollar amount that was requested?
I don't recall, but I do think that we definitely need to resubmit that either as a circle or somebody else might have already done so. I haven't looked recently.
Okay. Great. Yeah, great discussion.
Yeah. And what I was going to say, Nori, is so in terms of it coming out in tranches, the funding, I was just wondering how that would work, because I know that comes out at 5,000 per time. I was listening to the last meeting, the one that I missed, and there was all this discussion going on, and I was like, yeah, if I was there, what I would ask is, have we considered sort of requesting the whole funding upfront? Because then that gives a lot more control in terms of how it will be dispersed instead of taking just 5,000 at a time. Has that consideration ever been made?
Not that I'm aware of, not for the circle.
Are you talking about funding for the circle?
The approved, yes, the money that has already been approved. So Marek or Chris or Danny is happy to consider that, okay, so this is a governance group. We sort of have different needs. So can we have all of the money upfront
Mhm.
instead of 5,000 per month over how many months? I'm not sure.
I know Chris has given some thought to that, and I know that, you know, if you reach out and make certain requests, potentially that can be depending on the specific need. So I think it could be flexible. And I know, you know, we do want to ensure that the folks are actually making progress, I get ideally to milestones. And I think that's sort of part of the coordinator piece of things. So it is something that, you know, we need to sort of balance, because there have been projects that have been fully funded that ended up not necessarily getting to the finish line. And so there's got to be some incentive, I think, that might remain. But that's an open discussion, and I think it's a as needed basis, right? But I definitely agree, if you're trying to spin up resources and get things done, having the funds early, depending on your need, you know, I think Chris and the team will consider.
And I'm even thinking that it doesn't need to be dispersed immediately to, say, the team members, because the admin team sort of have a treasury sub-team kind of thing, I think. You know, they can be in control of that. And then it's way easier to, you know, plan the disbursement, Harris, as you said, based on deliverables. So more control that way.
Great. So that's on the board now, or that's a proposal to add to the board, Mercy, is that right?
Yeah, I think we should. And maybe who is taking that up? I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, so in general, as items come up for your specific concerns, you can add them directly into the Git board. And I think there's probably some training that's available. If you're familiar with Git, you can put it in yourself.
Would this be a funded proposal thing, or is it an admin thing? Is it something that the admin is able to take up? No, I'm just wondering, you know, who is, it was just a thought in terms of, I know that I'm not in control of the treasury or anything like that.
Yeah, it would really be how much of a concern it is. I just posted the funded proposals, and the one for paying you all your $1,000, that was a very small proposal. It was only $6,000 for sustaining the circle. And then the other one that would impact you, I guess the primary one, is the Catalyst Circle rapid funding mechanism with 37,500. And if we only get $5,000 at a time, that's basically $1,000 each a month, which might not, yeah, I'm not sure how that would work, but that's something we definitely need to look at. And yeah, I don't even know if that's something that we're able to ask for, if we can say, hey, can we get it all up front or not?
Yeah, we are able to do that. We are able to do that. And if the circle sort of wants me to do it, I will take that on myself to do.
But yeah, the admin team can also take that on. We can just,
okay.
We can talk to Danny, and
yeah,
I guess, would they be
yeah, they are very good that way. I have done that for one of our projects. So
okay.
So to clarify, are we talking about adding it into the problem board, or are we talking about the actual change in the policy of how funds get dispersed?
I think we're talking about making it an action item for the admin team to ask Danny and Merrick if we can get the full funding for the Catalyst Circle funding mechanism proposal, rather than in tranches, just for that one. I don't think any the other ones need to be affected.
Okay, all right, so it'll be added to the board. Yeah, we definitely, if there's things that arise, we want to add things to the board, and that way we can show the progress to ourselves and sort of watch these items move across the board, and then also show that we're actually performing our function of making progress with the community. So definitely encourage people to add items to the board.
JP, can you take a note just for the admin team to add it to the board? And then we can directly drive that.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, thank you. Okay, Joey, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so do we just send our wallet address to someone? Is that how it gets funded? Who do we send it to?
Yeah, the Treasury team will be in touch with you all to collect your wallet addresses that you want to be paid to. And the rapid funding one is a little bit different. We'll probably need to set up a mechanism where you submit something that says, pay this much to this wallet for this reason, and then we'll track what the funds are being spent on. But they don't all have to go to you because that could cause a taxable event that is unfavorable if that money ultimately is going to June, for example. It would be much more straightforward for that to go straight to her. So we'll have a different mechanism for the rapid funding stuff set up. So, but the Treasury team will be in touch soon to collect this information from you. Any other questions or comments? If not, okay, so we can go to Mercy. I think you have the next two prioritized problems on the agenda.
Yeah, so I will hopefully be very brief with this. So the background, one of the reasons that I decided to join the circle is just basically to see what I can do to lower the stress for funded projects, funded proposals. And I think that one of the key things, so the first item on there is the exact timing of release of funds. And I'm saying this with a lot of humility because I know that there's a lot of work that Marek is doing, that the team is doing. But the reason that I think that we should keep an eye on this is that it's just good fiscal management. We are all, holders of ADA. We all want the Treasury to work out, and the less barriers funded proposals have, the more likelihood that they can actually implement their projects and brings benefit to the wider ecosystem. So having said that, right now, we know that how the funding is disbursed once a proposal is approved is quite manual. So it takes a lot of work to actually, get the funding out there. So what I am not saying is that the funding should come out very quickly. That is not what I'm saying. What I am trying to say is that, is it possible, as generous as the team can be, the IOG team that disburses the funds can be, let's as much time as they need, but is it possible for us to say that on the 21st or on the 25th of every month, the funding comes out, the tranches, so whether it's 5,000 or whether it's a third or whatever it is, can we get a specific date and an approximate time that the funding comes out? And the reason that I feel so passionate about this is just as long as we haven't gone on to stable coins and we have to deal with ADA and, sort of the volatility, if you're away on holiday or if the time zone even doesn't favor you, like within say 3 hours, you could potentially lose a third of your funding. And that means that work can't be done. So that is sort of what I want to raise. I want us to keep an eye on it. That is something that possibly the best way to approach it might be, just to see if we can get Danny into the loop and sort of, form a subcommittee or a work group and work on it. However, we do have Rhys here, so I don't know if this is something that can be picked up on a more systemic basis, because I know that this is something that Marek and Co, they are really working on, and I know that they are putting their best effort into it, but there could be some systemic issues that just doesn't make it possible. So is it possible that we can work towards a specific date and time? So that's my first question.
I think this would make a really great prioritized problem to put on the board so that we start to have those conversations and move through it. And I see some hands raised. And Joey, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think she makes a good point, because it seems like we need some reporting back to the Catalyst teams, because I'm on the one with June on the DeFi group, and even the ones, some of our proposers that have not done the proof of life, we don't really have a way of contacting them, and we don't know if they're dropped off the planet or what they're doing. And I know we're going to be getting the monthly reports back. Does that, once we get those back, does that automatically mean people will get funded after that? And so that kind of reporting, I think, would be good for the challenge team leads.
Yes.
Yeah, Mercy, I definitely think it's great. Let's add that as a prioritized problem. Let's definitely assign IOG that item, and now we can track it. I certainly work really closely with Marek and Danny, and I do want to find ways where we can be consistent. I think it's a great idea, and that people depend on some of the funds that are coming through, and that we can do it in a timely manner. And we certainly are working very, very hard on trying to be less manual. But having this listed as a prioritized problem will keep the attention on it, and we'll try to work on that. There are certainly mechanisms and things that I'll be actively working on directly, so I can participate in those discussions and understand the specific triggers. And certainly the goal is to ensure that the system is not being gamed or bots are requesting funds. And so we do want to prove that we have humans involved in the early phases, but certainly can, the actual triggering of timing, I think can become quite a bit more automated or consistent, as we design that out. As we all know, Catalyst has been an experiment, and we've grown very fast, and has led to some of these manual activities, which we have completely identified as places where we need to make improvements, and it's certainly something the team is working hard on. But let's track it for sure. So I think it's a great suggestion. Let's add it to the board, and I'd love to be involved.
Yeah. And just a quick clarification before Rhys comes in. So it's not in terms of the time. So we end a funding round, and it takes maybe if it takes a month. All that I'm asking for, and I think will benefit the community, is that even if it takes 4 weeks to verify that there are no bots, let us make, like we want to ensure that we know that, okay, on this date, on the 25th, it's going to come out. So for me, I feel that is a bigger priority than even, making sure that the funding comes out sooner rather than later. We just want a consistent date and sort of a time, so that if you're on holiday, you are telling somebody to, hey, watch out, as soon as the money comes in, please change it to stablecoin before you lose half of the money, kind of thing.
Thanks, Mercy. Rhys, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Harris, it should be quite easy to contractualize it. The only issue to look out for, obviously, is fluctuations in price, right? Which would mean different amounts of ADA would need to be released on any given time scale. But again, that would be quite simple to actually build out, right? It wouldn't be that difficult to implement. And I think it might be something you could even involve the Plutus pioneers with, just for a fun experiment, to kind of get them to do something as well and get involved. Not that they don't, but I mean, I think that sounded wrong when I said it, right? But to get them involved and kind of open source it to the community as well, which the thing is, right, as soon as there's a bottleneck, then people point fingers and it creates like friction, which is really unnecessary. And yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from, Mercy. I think it would be something that could be solved so easily. Obviously, it's not going to be instant, but it's a pretty simple solution to implement, I think. I'm more than willing to help and start a discussion if you want as well, Harris. I'm happy to help you out with that.
Thanks.
We'll definitely put it up there as a prioritized problem, and we can continue the conversation as the circle and keep that going. Okay, thank you, Mercy. You have one more around the permanent allocation of Treasury to support the governance stuff.
Yes, and I know that I'm not the only one sort of talking about this. I know that Felix is doing a lot of background work. Steve Lockhart in the community has said a lot of things. Stephen knows a whole lot of people that are talking about this issue. For me, you know, especially on the governance side, right? And even the admin side and what we're doing here, because as we can see in Fund 8, we don't know how successful we're going to be in terms of submitting proposals and making sure that this work gets funded. So sort of the issue that I'm raising is that, is there a way that we don't have to keep going to a catalyst proposals in order to ensure, you know, sort of predictability? What concerns me, I would say, especially or when it comes to funded proposals, so I'm even trying to talk outside of governance and this circle, because as I said, people are already talking about these things. But when we look at some of the services that communities like, say, Gimba Labs, like Swarm, like WADA, like QADAO, you know, these are communities that do ongoing work. It's almost like an extension of, say, the Cardano Foundation, right? And it's very disruptive when, say, you know, we start a project and in Fund 5, we get funding, we're doing work, and then we have to stop because Fund 6, we don't get funding. And it reverses, you know, this also goes back to good fiscal management. Because if there is no consistency to sort of keep doing the work and pushing it forward, then we lose the gains that we made in, say, the last funding round or the last 2 funding rounds. So as I said, this is also something that many voices are on. I know that there's probably even a discussion of CIP, but I just wanted us to also keep an eye on it. Hopefully in 6 months, if we keep this conversation up, we'll be able to have reached some kind of a consistency for some of these key groups that work within the catalyst and for the benefit of the Cardano ecosystem.
Thanks, Mercy. Yeah, I think this is a very important topic. And part of what JP is putting together as our proposal is a baseline budget to support at least the circle and the admin team governance layer, just to understand in one budget what the total looks like. And that could be used as an input to some kind of catalyst parameter conversation around this. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of people in a lot of different areas thinking about this and working towards some proposals or ideas around that. So I'm really happy to see this popping up as a prioritized problem that the circle can consider and find a solution to. Joey, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say I agree. You know, I come out of the business community where you get a budget, you're going to sign contracts, you're going to hire contractors, hire permanent employees. So you got to have reliable funding. And I think Harris had mentioned that maybe with the DREPs that there was going to be some permanent funding for them. So maybe there's a way also to consider the things that Mercy talked about being permanently funded.
Yeah, I do think this is, definitely should be added to the prioritized problem board. Certainly IO can be involved in the discussion, perhaps CF and perhaps other voices from the community and other organizations can come together and discuss, the Treasury piece of this and, where that might come from, is it in perpetuity, how long is it funded for? These kinds of things are considerations that would probably need to go into the equation of a permanent allocation. But yeah, no, I definitely would support in putting it on the list, and let's have some more conversation about that.
All right. Any other comments or
Thanks.
questions on that? All right. Thanks, Mercy. Thanks for bringing these two. They're really important.
Yeah.
things to talk about.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, Rhys, live streaming the circle meetings.
Yeah, guys. So I was just planning on live streaming these to help with the transparency, really, and get more people to understand what we're doing and the role that we're playing. It's part of a bit of initiative that I'm kind of taking on to basically promote Catalyst, because I see like a bit of a gap basically with people who are very heavily involved in the ecosystem, like everyone who's present here, and average ADA holders, pool operators, the greater community. And I think that streaming and just promoting these things gives people another channel where they can access this information. I know you guys are already actually promoting these things and recording and publishing them. But I just wanted to get a heads up. I just wanted to let you know that that was my intention and get confirmation from you guys that that was okay, and that you all kind of understood that I would then be sharing it to YouTube. But I just didn't want to do it without anyone knowing. I didn't want to surprise anyone. Yeah, so if that's the case and if people are all right with that, then that would be fantastic. If they're not, then that's okay. Just tell me. If you're worried about appearance or anything like that, or just aren't comfortable being on video all the time and everyone else is, then you obviously have the option to turn your camera off or on however you please. Just add a little picture of a dog, something like that. But yeah, it's just really kind of wanted to open this up as a discussion rather than just do it without anyone knowing, because I didn't think that was fair.
Thanks, Rhys. Joey, you have a comment?
Yeah, since they're being recorded anyway, I don't see a problem with it being streamed live. There may be circumstances as we grow. As you know, in every organization, you have human resource issues sometimes, and there may be some of those issues that we have to take offline that we don't want to be consumed by the community.
Harris.
Yeah, definitely support getting the word out there more. I know that IOG actually publishes, live stream of our town halls all the time, and we certainly can make this live. I think the expectation is everything we say here is already recorded, and amazing notes are taken already on everything we say, so we might as well blast it out to as many channels as possible, in my view. So I definitely would support it.
Thanks, everybody. So we do have a proposal before the circle. So before we pass, I want to just make sure everyone's okay. So to do it, anybody who's opposed to it, please raise your hand and then we can have a conversation. No hands, so I'm going to take that as consent from everybody. So I think you're good to go, Rhys. I just have some questions for longevity. Once you're no longer at Circle V4, like how do we transition if we want to continue the expectation of a live stream to the public? So there are some things we don't have to solve now, but kind of the legacy and the passing on of the torch of the live streaming and how we do that might be an interesting conversation to have. Harris.
So I know the circle was stood up, and I know we are reaching kind of consensus. And I don't know if there's any specific decorum or model we should use. And I was delighted to see you just sort of call that out specifically, Nori, but I don't know if there's any particular mechanisms of getting agreements that we want to establish within the circle, or maybe it's already somewhere documented, and maybe we can reshare that if it is. But if there's specific rules on how we want to behave and actually make decisions, get everyone to raise their hand or whatever, but set that decorum. And I don't know if it's formal like Robert's rules, or if it's something else, something we can discuss and decide how we want to decide, just get agreement as a team.
Yeah, I think that's a very important conversation. Thanks for bringing that up, Harris. And the circle was born out of initiative between ILG and Governance Alive. So its initial starting point was sociocracy. It has drifted a bit on the wind since then, but we should probably have some kind of a group agreement on how we make decisions and how we come to consensus. So if you want, I can prepare something from the admin team for next meeting just to have a starting point of a discussion. And if everybody agrees, then we can move forward or modify it if people have different ideas or opinions there.
Yeah, I think it would be fantastic, because I think we have reached a point where we sort of had consensus, but it wasn't completely agreed. And we want to make sure that it's crystal clear, like, hey, we're all in agreement of this and as voices to the community. So cool.
Yeah, and that's been on my mind too, because we had that conversation with Circle V2 around the 6-month tenure for the next circle, and we didn't actually have that consensus round. I missed doing that. So yeah, I'm paying more attention this time.
Awesome. That was great.
All right, Nadia, your hand up.
I just want to say, as I've been sitting here reflecting on it, that I think that last time, as an example, we wrote in that talk about CA incentives piece in the beginning, and then it just stayed there on the form to close the mystery. I think when we did the onboarding, that was the example that was used for something that you put in there.
Oh, was that the example?
I think so. So I've been sitting here thinking about the mystery of it, and then I was remembering that as we were talking about it, I think that's how it got added on there. So maybe that's
Okay.
mystery solved, so no one has to lose sleep after our
Okay.
meeting.
It might be on the template, and we'll just have to take it out if it's
Take it out, yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. All right, we're down to the last couple. We have 15 minutes, and I do want to have a closeout. So let's go through these a little quickly. Next meeting discussion and alignment. Harris brought that up at the beginning. It is currently scheduled in the calendar for March 17th at 5 p.m. UTC. So it'll flip 12 hours to the other time zones. And is everyone aligned with that? And then just to keep this meeting a little more sane for a lot of people, I would propose that we don't keep it bound to UTC when daylight savings happens. We keep it so it's the same hour for everybody here. Actually, I don't know if that's going to work. I don't think everybody shifts daylight savings at the same time. So we're going to have to navigate that. It's going to get really late for some people if we move it an hour later.
UTC isn't daylight savings, Nori, I don't believe. I think it's just GMT, which is like British time. Yeah, I know some you guys over the pond do have the equivalent as well, don't you? Have like a daylight savings. Yeah. But I think UTC is just stays the same, right? So
it
for us in Britain, we would move to 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Yeah, I think UTC is just the same. So I don't think that would really.
Of Joey and Nadia, it'll move for them to 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. meeting.
As well.
It would require a lot of coffee.
I think maybe over that transition in the next meeting, just confirm the next meeting and make that a tradition of each meeting, just to be aligned that, hey, it's not 3 a.m. in my time, or, the idea is trying to get consensus. And and be accommodating of all the time zones that we're in, and make sure that we're maybe sacrificing a little bit, but not every time, and not something where it's truly the middle of the night, hopefully, for folks, as much as possible. But I'm certainly willing to get up at odd hours myself, and hopefully we can have that commitment amongst the circle.
I just wanted, I don't know if this is a can of worms, but I'll just offer it, is that I know that there was the question in Slack about, could it be on Tuesdays rather? And I specifically was like, it would be better on Thursdays, but also this is just like, my thinking was that it actually was tomorrow. So there's actually no difference for me in terms of school schedule. That was my request. So if it would be better for the group, and not that decision was made solely based on me, but I think I was the only one who commented on that. So if it would be better for the group and it's 6 one, half dozen the other, and it would be better to meet before we have the town halls, I just want to say that, I'm neutral in my opinion there, and I retract my previous comment.
I'm good with the day today. It's a good day for me.
Yeah, I do think that we number one lucked out that we were able to have extra time for funding the proposals. If we had the original deadline, we would all be frantically entering proposals that would be empty, which is sort of what we did, I think, in the last Circle V2. We certainly want to accommodate as we get into the next fund cycle, that we make sure that we align with dates. And so I think we need to be kind of flexible, and not just like, hey, here's the one time and date and set it and forget it, but definitely use some reason in getting in there. I do find, this week I think the team did amazing in terms of getting all of the slides for the folks that wanted to present. That was fantastic in time for town hall. We have seen some last minute shuffling, and so advancing that before town hall, I think, was part of the reason to consider earlier in the week. If we could stay organized and upfront, and not feed everything last minute to our beautiful admin team, that we can keep the day different than before town hall. But just sort of the pattern that we saw in Circle V2, it was an idea also. But so I'm fine as long as we get the job done in preparing for town hall.
Yeah, and I have to say, Circle V3, you're all very much on top of things. I'm very impressed. So thanks for being so proactive and taking advantage of the town hall slide opportunities. Okay, so we have the next meeting. We still have 2 weeks before them. So if we want to talk about it some more, we have some time to adjust. But right now it's on the 17th at 5 p.m. UTC. And then at that meeting, we'll confirm the next meeting. Okay. And then our very last one is circle specific proposals we put on. We have maybe a couple minutes to discuss that. We did talk about some earlier, and we do have 2 weeks now. I don't know if we have meeting time here to brainstorm and come up with a bunch of stuff, but we should definitely take it to Slack. And if we want circle proposals beyond the core ones that JP is working on for the admin team, then maybe we can just talk briefly now if there are any ideas for that.
Do we have a channel set up in Slack for this round of proposals, or can we create one?
We can definitely do that.
Okay.
We have a Fund 7 channel. Let's create a Fund 8 channel just so that we have a place to talk about it.
I think that would be great. And if we look at the UTC time deadline of when proposals are due, it's also on the 17th, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So will we have any other, perhaps we shouldn't talk it in the circle, but we may need to organize breakout groups and find other people to maybe support those proposals. And so we can self-organize, we can find ways to interact maybe in that channel to support each other. But we do want to make sure that we're getting the proposals that we need and making sure that the admin team has enough proposals that cover their needs for now and until we figure out how future governance is going to get funded as we do that. But I just wanted to make sure we covered the basis and it's not last minute, because the 17th will be the final day, and it may be right before or during our town hall or our circle meeting.
JP.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that I plan on having, so last week I drafted the letter, and that ate up a lot of my time, but I plan on having the proposal done hopefully by the end of the weekend for you to look at. So then you can see, okay, what's missing in there. The one thing that I can tell you already that's not captured is any of that extra funding mechanism for you to spend to pay subcircles. That would have to be a separate proposal, but as for paying you, that's included. So I'll have that soon for you to look at to help guide additional proposals.
Any as far as like revamping, maybe trying to get a governance type challenge, were there folks here that were involved in creating that one last time, even though it wasn't funded?
I believe my name was on there for last time. And I know of at least one other group that's putting in a governance challenge setting proposal.
Okay, so maybe already in there. All right. Okay, yeah, so if we can just kind of cover the basis of what we need within the circle, please think about it, throw it in the Slack, and we can rally together to try and help create those.
I've created it's called Project Fund 8 Proposals in Slack. I've invited you all to that channel, so you should now be able to see it, and we can use that space. And just for naming convention, anything with a project in front of it as a channel name is intended to be a short-lived channel. So once Fund 8 is done and we're done with that work, that channel is intended to be closed. So any channel that starts with the word project is intended to close eventually, and then the other channels live forever. JP, your hand is up. Nope, forgot to take it down. Okay, that takes us to the end of our agenda. We have a feedback form posted in the agenda here. I will put it in Slack. And as we do our final checkout, please do fill it out and give us feedback. The admin team does look at it and we review it at our next meeting. So any suggestions, improvements, things that went well, please do note. We like to be a learning organization so we can continuously evolve and get better. So yeah, and then at the end, we just do a short checkout and kind of how we checked in the beginning. Just want to hear from everybody where you're at and how you're feeling, and just a quick 30-second checkout. And we'll start with Joey, and then Nadia can go after him.
Yeah, I'm good. I think it was a great meeting, and I think we got a lot accomplished. So I'm happy.
Nadia, and then Rhys.
I second what Joey said, and I'm also happy to be awake still, because I was a little worried that I wouldn't be. I'm glad. Now I'm hoping that I can go to sleep after this, meaning like I hope I could fall asleep. So it's nice to, you're all very energizing.
Thanks. Rhys, and then Harris.
Yeah. I think this is like a really well structured and organized meeting. Normally, when you're on stuff, it's a bit of a mess. But this is just really good. I'm glad everything is just that so organized and civilized and well ordered. It's nice to be part of it.
Thanks, Harris, and then JP.
I think we had some great discussion today. I thought we definitely were fruitful, brought up some great topics. It's so amazing to see such the interactivity you folks already have with your communities and pulling out issues and problems. And I think it's already being effective. So I definitely applaud the pre-training and the preparation. I think we're off to a great start, and really, really pleased and happy to be working with all of you. And I think we're going to make some things happen. So thank you.
JP, and then Mercy.
Yeah, so feeling good, taking notes in the background. So I will share obviously the notes version immediately following this meeting. You can take a look, make sure your voice is accurately represented. We also do with our friends at QA DAO also transcribe the meeting to have it verbatim. So if I did miss something, it won't be catched there as well. But you should get a general sense of the conversation flow. So thanks, guys. And I'm excited to go to sleep too.
Thanks, Mercy, and then Bullish Dumpling.
Yeah, so same here, great meeting. At the time, just want to ditto what Rhys said. Thanks for everyone doing background work, preparing this meeting. Nori, thanks for running it. Very, very, very nice. And thanks for everybody being so nice and fruitful. Thanks.
Thanks, Mercy. Bullish Dumpling, any closing thoughts?
Yes, thanks everybody. Extremely efficient meeting, really, really well organized and fruitful discussions. Mercy, thanks for bringing us the attention to our proposals. And Harris, thanks for your comments from IOG, really appreciate it. Look forward to the next meeting.
All right, I didn't miss anybody. Yeah, thanks everybody. We are just on time to end the meeting, so thanks. I thought it went really well, and I just want to reiterate, I'm super impressed with how engaged everybody is and how you're jumping in and doing stuff, and all the Subcircle talks and everything that's going on, the mentorship from the previous circle, all that's super amazing, and I think we're really building something pretty special here. So thanks for participating, and thanks for showing up, and thanks for working together to find meeting times now that we're spread around the world. I think that was really cool as a first exercise to see you all come together and agree on that. And I look forward to working with you all moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Nori.
Thanks, everyone. Good morning. Good night. Take care.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Ciao.
Bye.
Good night, all. Mercy, it was nice meeting you.